You'll remember, viewers, the Supreme Court passed a judgment, even a 5-judge bench, that allowed women the right to pray. Women of all ages, according to the Supreme Court, would be allowed into the temple. Now, we're a week away from the temple being reopened for this season, and there are protests all over Kerala. In fact, the threat now is that if women want to enter that temple, they will have to walk over the bodies of devotees who will lie on the road in protest to stop their way. Take a look.
On the debate tonight, just 8 days before the Sabarimala temple opens its doors to women after the historic Supreme Court verdict, a review petition was filed today in the top court to reconsider the judgment.
The Sabarimala temple issue is all set to escalate, with the Kerala government deciding earlier that it does not intend to file a review. Today, devotees of Lord Ayyappa have filed a review seeking reconsideration of the top court's earlier verdict.
Meanwhile, protests to overturn the verdict have intensified across the country.
Sabarimala is right now being invaded by these kind of forces. We want to resist that invasion. It is a fight to protect all temples and all places of worship, and it is a fight to protect Article 25.
The Chief Minister of Kerala, Pinarayi Vijayan, says the state will ensure that the apex court's judgment is followed. As protests escalate across the country, let's debate on what should be the way forward.
Massive protests all over Kerala, Kottayam, Ernakulam, Malappuzha, Kannur, Thiruvananthapuram and Thrissur. We've had protests like the ones you're seeing on your screen. Women and men in large numbers coming out into the street to protest the entry of women into the Sabarimala temple. Remember, the temple will open or reopen for devotees for this season on the 17th of October. Now, according to the court, women will be allowed to go in, but according to the protesters, their route will be blocked. What's the way forward? Joining me on the show, Tripti Desai, founder of the Bahumata Brigade, one among those activists who fought very hard to give women the right to pray. Dr. Geetha Bhatt, RSS supporter. Deepa Rahul Ishwar is a social activist. Sudha Ramalingam is a senior lawyer with the Madras High Court, also one of the women who fought very hard. Barkat Rehan is an activist. Justice Yatindra Singh is the former Chief Justice of the Chhattisgarh High Court. I welcome all of you to this discussion and thank you for your time. Opening statements from each of our guests. And I'll start with Deepa Rahul Ishwar. If you could please tell us what these protests are about, and if the Supreme Court, 5 judges of the Supreme Court have decided that women should have the right to pray, why stand in their way?
No, I think that's a very wrongly put statement, Faye.
It was a question.
This is not about right to pray, because if you look at how. Yeah, if you look at the kind of the right to pray arguments that have come in from the section of people who have submitted this petition, the case, and how it started off in the initial phase itself, it was not by a section of devotees. It was not by a section of devotees. So whose right to pray are you trying to protect here? That's my first counter question to you. Secondly, I'm sure everything was going fine. Why was this whole movement in the first place? Did any section of devotee stage a protest saying that I want to enter the Sabarimala and there's nothing that's being done to protect my right? I'm a young woman in the age group of 10 to 50 and I'm not allowed in Sabarimala. Did we hear any such protests coming in from any groups? Then why did we start this? I need an answer to this from Tripti Desai, ma'am. Why? What was the intention of starting this without having any issue from any section of devotees, as she says? So this was moved by Tripti Desai, who I would like to know, does she know about the deity sitting at Sabarimala? What is the importance of Lord Ayyappa at Sabarimala and how is it different from the Lord Ayyappa deities at the other temples? Does she know that? How many Ayyappa temples have she visited? Is she, with conviction, can she say she is a devotee of Lord Ayyappa? Naushad Ahmed Khan, who moved this case in the first place, is he a devotee of Lord Ayyappa. So exactly who are they talking for? Are we going into a situation where non-devotees will speak for devotees? So this is not about right to pray. This is not about barring women. Lakhs of women enter Sabarimala every year. This year is not going to be different. The devotees there on October 17th are not going to bar women there. They're only going to bar young women between the age group of 10 and 50. So please do not manipulate this as gender inequality. This is very simply put forward a mere age regulation to protect the rights of the
So you know,
deity.
Deepa,
We've all been talking about my right to pray,
Deepa
her
Ishwar,
right to pray, but what
okay.
about the right of the deity?
Okay, one second. First of all, the questions you're asking now should have ideally been asked a long time ago, and the Supreme Court heard everybody out before it made its decision. The questions you're asking now are in relation to the decision that the Supreme Court has made. So, are you can't possibly be suggesting here that the Supreme Court didn't know what it was doing when it made this decision. It heard everyone out. It heard multiple voices out.
No. So are you saying that we should not debate it tonight? So obviously there is something that's gone wrong. So that there is something that's gone wrong. Yes, the Honorable Supreme Court did pass a verdict,
over
but
women empowerment.
It's not been accepted by women. The Supreme, no, this is not women empowerment. Please, it irritates me to hear that somebody like you puts forward this is women empowerment. Faye, women empowerment should not start from Sabarimala, for God's sake. There are a lot of other incidents where women still don't feel empowered. If you look at the streets right now, if you look at the kind of protests that women are leading now, that is true women empowerment, because women truly stand united today for what they feel, what they strongly believe in. That is women
Deepa
empowerment.
Ishwar, first of all,
it's not actually
Deepa Ishwar, first of all, that was you're not responding to my voice, but the voice of Barkat Rehan, who is sitting in our Noida studio. But I want to be able to give everybody an opportunity.
I said it is over women empowerment.
Tripti Desai.
Hang on. I didn't say it is women empowerment.
All right, 1 second, ladies.
And that is why Supreme Court said that women should enter.
1 second. Tripti Desai, the question that Deepa Ishwar asked was to you, and I'm sure you'd want to answer. Let's allow Tripti Desai to answer the question. She led this entire movement. Tripti,
no, Faye,
Deepa Ishwar wants to know why.
I have asked this question before as well.
No,
मुझे अच्छी तरह से पता है.
Let Tripti Desai speak for herself, please.
उनके पास कोई सीधा जवाब नहीं है.
1 minute. कोई रुकेगा तो मैं बोलूंगी वहां से.
बोलिए तृप्ति जी बोलिए.
सबसे पहले तो वहां के लॉर्ड अयप्पा के जो डिवोटीज हैं, उनका जो कहना है, उनकी जो भावना है, उनकी जो आस्था है, प्रिस्ट का जो कहना है, ट्रस्ट का जो कहना है, ये सब सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने सुना था. और उसके बाद कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन ने दिया हुआ अधिकार जो है, राइट टू प्रे का हो या इक्वालिटी का हो, वो मिलना चाहिए. इसीलिए ये निर्णय हुआ और हमें इससे रोका जा रहा था, क्योंकि वहां पे जो है वो 10 इयर्स के पहले और 50 इयर्स के बाद की जो महिला है उनको छोड़ा जा रहा था. और वहां पे अयप्पा स्वामी जी जो है वो ब्रह्मचारी है, इसलिए मेंस्ट्रुएशन पीरियड आता है, ये महिलाएं वहां पे नहीं चलती. ये कौन सा न्याय था? मेंस्ट्रुएशन पीरियड तो कोई अपवित्र नहीं है, ये तो नेचुरल प्रोसेस है. और ये अधिकार हमसे छीना जा रहा था. वहां के ट्रस्टी, वहां के प्रीस्ट, इनकी जो दादागिरी थी वो जो है वो खत्म होकर जो है वो ये निर्णय आगे आया है. और ये निर्णय आने के बाद इसका स्वागत होना चाहिए था. तो उसके बाद यहाँ के प्रीस्ट और इनकी जो दादागिरी है, 1 मिनट मुझे बोलने दीजिए, वहां की जो दादागिरी है, इन्होंने अभी महिलाओं को भड़काया है, क्योंकि महिलाओं का आंदोलन था, महिलाएं वहां पे 1 मिनट महिलाएं सक्सेस हुई है, तो महिलाओं को महिलाओं का विरोध होना चाहिए, इसलिए महिलाओं को रास्ते पे उतरा. अभी जो पीआई दर्ज हुई है, रिव्यू पिटीशन वो भी महिला ने दर्ज की है. तो इनको ऐसे दिखाना है कि महिलाएं आगे आ रही है, महिलाएं विरोध कर रही है, महिलाएं आगे नहीं आ रही है. ये
Okay, all right. Cut everybody's mics. Cut everybody's mics. I'm cutting everybody's mics. I'm cutting everybody's mics. The audience cannot hear you, and I'll tell you why. Okay, you are on Mirror now. This is not a channel where we talk over each other. 1 minute, Tripti Desai, please stop. Ladies, yelling over each other is not going to serve anybody's purpose, because nobody can understand what you're saying. Please wait until I come to you and speak one by one, so that the audience can understand the arguments you are making. Now, the good thing is we have a printed document of the judgment given to us by the Supreme Court that we can quote from that document, and this was Chief Justice Deepak Mishra's opinion. He said that the devotees of Ayyappa did not pass the constitutional test to be declared as a separate religious identity. He said that they are Hindus. Now, specifically, Article 25(2)(b) allows the state to make any law that opens a public Hindu institution to all classes and sections of Hindus. Now, Justice Deepak Mishra interpreted that all classes and sections include women of all ages. He held that the exclusion of women between the ages of 10 to 50 by the Sabarimala temple cannot be an essential religious practice. He held that if the Ayyappans are Hindus, the practice of excluding women cannot be held as an essential religious practice. Now, we do have Justice Yatinder Singh, former Chief Justice of the Chhattisgarh High Court, who joins us on the show. Justice Singh, thank you for joining us. And here's my question to you. The Supreme Court made it very clear why it was taking the stand. What is your response right now to the widespread protests? And it cannot be ignored that there are widespread protests taking place in the state of Kerala. People who are saying things like, the Supreme Court couldn't possibly understand what is going on in this temple, the feelings of the devotees and the rights of the deity in the temple. What's your response to that?
See, whenever the government or the judiciary takes a stand which is different than the normal practice, then there is a kind of a protest. Dalits were never permitted in the temples. When these temples were opened, there was a protest. Widows were not permitted to remarry. When they were permitted to remarry, there was a protest. As a matter of fact, when the Hindu Code Bill was brought in 1956, there was a protest. So whenever there is a change, there is always a protest. People who are used to a particular custom, used to a particular idea, they are not willing to accept new ideas, fairer ideas, better ideas. That is why the protest is there. But I'm sure the government has to implement it. Government is bound to implement the decision unless, of course, there is a review petition in the Supreme Court, which to my mind is likely to be dismissed. Then they have an option of going into a curative petition. Well, if ultimately the judgment stands, then the government has to implement it. The people have to accept the change.
Well, the people will have to accept the change. I do want to give everybody an opportunity to make an opening argument. Sudha Ramalingam, senior lawyer with the Madras High Court. Mr. Ramalingam, do you want to answer some of the concerns that Deepa Ishwar raised at the beginning of the show? I know you have answers. Mr. Ramalingam, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, what the previous speaker, the judge, said was really absolutely right. Every time there has been a change, there has been a reform about which the court spoke of or other institutions spoke about, there would always be protests like this. When there was temple entry here, definitely there was so much of protest. And then when Devadasi system was abolished, as far as Tamil Nadu is concerned, you can go and read up the debates in the state assembly where people spoke about non-abolition of the Devadasis. So likewise, child marriages was abolished. Even then there was protest. These are things which are going to be there continuously. What the other speaker told and asked was, did the devotees come and ask for it? No, the devotees need not come and ask for it, but the devotee side was extensively heard by the court. One. Secondly, we'll have to understand that it is the rights of people which are being agitated about as per the constitution. So whatever the constitution says is supreme. And once the court has given a judgment, that too a constitutional court gives this judgment, a full bench judgment gives the judgment, we'll have to obey this. And we saw that not only the ruling party, but the BJP, RSS and the Congress had immediately after the judgment welcomed this. Thereafter, feeling something else in order to appease and get some votes, the vote politics game is being played there. It is the duty of all responsible citizens, all responsible leaders to ensure that we tell the people that this is the law of the land and it speaks about equality, and equality is something which we will have to be batting for, and this is as enshrined in our constitution. And in order to even see that the Hindu religion itself is coming up in the eyes of everybody else, it is essential that you allow women to enter the temple. The temple entry for women, this has to be seen on par with the untouchables who are allowed to enter the temples. So that is the reason why we'll have to speak about equality and not merely the right of these men to go and see this God in person without the company of women who are in the age group of menstruation.
Well, that's a very interesting argument, and Dr. Geeta Bhatt joins us as well. She's an RSS supporter. Dr. Bhatt, here's the argument that Sudha Ramalingam is making. The fact that not allowing women within the ages of menstruation, 10 to 50, into the temple suggests that menstruating women are unclean or temptresses in some way, is brought on the same lines as not allowing Dalits into temples because they were considered unclean. Do you want to argue against that? Dr. Geeta Bhatt.
Yeah, Faye, what we are debating today, you know, the 5-judge constitution bench, when it gave this decision, which was ostensibly for gender equality and towards women and emancipation, what do we see is that, you know, lakhs of the devotees of Lord Ayyappa, these women devotees, they are neither happy, neither they are relieved. Rather, we find that they are very distressed. Lakhs of them are on the streets, they are protesting. So my first point is, I'll come to the second point also where you've made the comparison. My first point is that, you know, these women who are protesting on the streets, are we trying to, you know, kind of question their maturity, understanding, or their, you know, caliber as thinking individuals, while they are saying that, you know, that it is basically their mindset is they feel that it is the, you know, colonial patriarchy, which is kind of, you know, there is a contest between colonial patriarchy and the native customs. This is how they are.
How is this colonial patriarchy? They're obviously being misinformed by someone.
You know, who are the people who have... Can I just complete what I'm saying?
Okay, colonial patriarchy. I'm writing that down. Okay.
What I'm saying is, so the question arises is, can I just complete what I'm saying, Faye? See, the question is that who are the ones who have actually gone with this PIL, you know, into the Supreme Court? Now, the first point is, which while, you know, there have been many speakers before me, they have contested on the point that, you know, when this has been, when this PIL has been put in front of the Supreme Court bench, what all the, you know, the 4 judges, what they have said on it. But please also try to keep in mind that there was only one woman in the bench, and she, Indu Malhotra, who has given a dissent on it, and she has some very valid reasons to dissent on it, which she has put forth, which I think it is important that, you see, there is, with all due respect to the judgment of the Supreme Court, but when the people who are directly getting affected by the judgment, who feel, you know, that, you know, their way of respecting Lord Ayyappa, if that is being questioned, so it is important that we need to have a consensus in the society, because he's a local deity.
Okay, fair enough.
Of course,
so
there are people
Dr.
across
Geeta
the country,
Bhatt, let me respond to the things that you have said. You mentioned, fair enough, you mentioned Justice Indu Malhotra's judgment. Let me also remind you that the judgment was in minority. It was 4 against 1. Now, this is the same thing that happened in the Aadhaar judgment. The minority judgment from Justice D.Y. Chandrachud wanted to abolish Aadhaar from the country completely. Now, unfortunately, minority judgments don't hold because they're in minority. It's the majority judgment that holds, which is 4 against 1, which was the judgment to allow... Now allow me to finish. Now allow me to finish, Geeta Bhatt. Now allow me to finish, Geeta Bhatt. Okay. Now I agree with you. Your next question was, are we questioning the maturity of the women who are protesting against the Supreme Court? Yes, I am questioning the maturity of the women who are protesting against the Supreme Court. I am questioning everybody who's protesting against the Supreme Court, because a 5-judge bench of the court has heard everybody out and has had its say. You cannot bully law and order. That doesn't require a consensus. Law and order is not a job of consensus. If you wanted a consensus, then the majority would always win. But the Supreme Court has told us very clearly that the morality of the majority doesn't apply to everyone. That's how democracies work. So, no, we don't need a consensus. No, protesting against the Supreme Court is not going to put pressure on it and make it change its mind. And you cannot expect to bully the judges of our system. Justice Yatindra Singh, what is your reaction to the people who are protesting?
Not at all. Not
and this
at all.
business
But
of colonial patriarchy.
Just give me 10 seconds.
You know, one second, Geeta, but one second. You said people believe that this is colonial patriarchy over local culture. I don't even understand what that means, but I'll give Justice Singh an opportunity to take a stab at it. Colonial patriarchy in the Supreme Court, Justice Singh. Do you understand what that even means?
I don't think so. That's correct. And the women who are protesting, you see,
first one that I want to.
Yes, Justice Singh, please go ahead.
No, exactly what you want me to say. See, what the women who are, you see, the people who are protesting, they have not been able to, I mean, either they are misled or either they are so deep into a particular tradition that they don't want to change. That is the reason they are protesting. And the protest is actually meaningless. By merely, suppose a majority says today that Dalits will not be permitted inside a temple. Can such a stand ever be taken? Can they be stopped from going to a temple?
No.
Similarly, a menstruating woman cannot be denied entry in the temple.
Absolutely.
Those who are protesting, those women who don't want to go there, they are welcome not to go there. I mean, they are welcome not to go there. I mean, but those who want to go there, I mean, they should be permitted to go in.
Barkat Rehan, your statement, please. Go ahead.
This is not a gender issue. First of all, I'd like to comment this, that this is not a gender issue. Secondly, I think, why should a court interfere in such things? I believe what Indu ji has said, she has very rightly said that there is no need for court to interfere in faith, religion. We have a long period of good traditions which we've been following from years. And if a woman are not allowed in one temple, there are other temples where they can go. What are they fighting for exactly? The court decision shows that this is over-empowerment of women.
Over-empowerment.
I agree with Deepti ji.
Over-empowerment?
Yeah, this is over-empowerment. Because
so you mean women are being empowered more than they ought to be? You think women are being too empowered?
This wasn't in the
okay. So hang on.
Barkat Rehan,
your argument. One second. Barkat Rehan, your argument is courts should not interfere in faith. For a long time we've had traditions. Why interfere in this? Would you use the same argument for triple talaq?
I would like to use the triple talaq if it is a bad habit, it should be changed.
Who's to decide what is good and what is bad?
It should give relief to
so
the
you,
Muslim
आपकी traditions अच्छे हैं, किसी और की traditions खराब है. ये आपने decide किया, कौन decide करेगा?
नहीं.
तो फिर?
No.
You just decided triple talaq is a bad tradition, but Sabarimala is a good tradition. How did you decide this? Are you the Supreme Court?
If women, no. I am not deciding it. I am saying if the Muslim women want this, they will come forward. But this is a temple in which the mandir authorities will decide. There are some rules and regulations. And what is the harm in following those rules and regulations?
I'll tell you. Dalits were not allowed inside temples. Women were burnt in sati in this country. Children were married at the age of 10. There are lots of harms in following traditions. I will tell you. It is the law that changed all of these traditions one by one. Barkat Rehan, I have one question for you. 1 second. Barkat Rehan, I have one question for you. Have you read the Supreme Court judgment on Sabarimala? Part of it at least?
Yes, I have. Yes,
you've read all of it. Could you tell me what is the justification?
You just tell me.
You tell me what the justification is.
The justification is here.
25BA. Can you tell me what 25BA is?
If the deity in the mandir does not give the consent to women, how can we as women always talk about consent, don't we? So if the deity doesn't give the consent, how will women enter? You just give me the answer of this question. We always talk about consent, don't we?
Sudha Ramalingam, please go ahead.
Can you give me the answer?
Sudha Ramalingam will give you the answer. Sudha Ramalingam,
the deities will not speak. No No deity can speak, and no deity has spoken. It is only the traditions about which we are talking. It's something which has been interpreted by the priestly class. The priestly class has always been interpreting things the way they think is right. And what has happened here is we have a constitution. We have to abide by the constitution. We live in a country which is a democratic country. We cannot now go about saying that the deity will come and pass orders or the deity will tell everything. And only if the deity gives you the right to entry, you can enter. I'm sorry, no deity will ever talk. No idol speaks. The idol has not set these rules. In fact, earlier women were going into this temple. In fact, there are records showing that women have also been part of this chorotal functions which were held. That is, the children, infants were given food at the first instance in this temple, wherein all women and men of the families would congregate in this temple. So women were entering this temple earlier on. Thereafter, slowly, there was certain misinterpretations wherein women were denied such entry. And now, the very same women are asking for re-entry. This is actually re-entry as such. And with what yardstick can you decide about whether women can be allowed inside the temple or not? With the yardstick of the rights conferred to you by the Constitution of India. That is what the courts have done. The court has very clearly said that you cannot deprive women of entry into the temple on the basis of sex alone. So this sex inequality which comes in the form of gender discrimination is not allowed, and that also is not part of Hinduism. So the practices of not letting a woman into a temple at a certain age group is not actually fundamental to Hinduism's concept or Hinduism's philosophy. Philosophy of Hinduism, in fact, would also, though of course it is very it's not single-handed, it is multifarious, and of course we have got to see it from different visions, but definitely Ardhanari is part of the Hindu culture. So what you say, Ardhanari would be half man and half woman, that is Shiva itself personifies himself as a man and woman. So it is to be seen that woman is not seen as impure. Woman is not seen to be incapable or disqualified from going into any temples. So why this discrimination?
Women go in this temple. Nobody is saying they are impure.
And said that women should enter. And all these...
But yes, if you're saying women go into the temple, then we don't have an argument, then we all agree with each other. So let's meet at the temple on the 17th. So what are we arguing about then? What's your problem?
At this age group.
There are so many women who enter, but the only logic is, if there are so many temples where men are not allowed, do they protest? Will they start protesting? There's so many men.
When it came to Haji Ali, you said women should enter.
Where men are not allowed.
All right, Barkat Rian, I'm going to... Okay, all right. I'm just going to do this one more time. One second. Everybody calm down. I see your hand up, Deepa Ishwar. I'm coming to you. I'm going to read this one more time. This is Chief Justice Deepak Mishra's opinion. Now, to those arguing on the other side, let me point out to you very clearly. The point that was being examined by the Supreme Court was whether or not the devotees of Ayyappa and the temple itself pass the constitutional test to be declared a separate religious identity. Now, if you have a separate religious identity under the law, you are allowed to form your own traditions. And that comes under the right to religion, and nobody can ask you to change your traditions. But the Supreme Court decided that they are not a separate religious identity, they are in fact Hindus. Now, being called Hindus by the Supreme Court, this brings you under Article 25(2)(b), which provides that the state, or the government, can make laws for Hindus and open all Hindu institutions to all classes and sections of Hindus. Now, Justice Mishra argued that all classes and sections include women. Now, here's my question to Deepa Ishwar. What is going to happen on the 17th, Deepa Ishwar, when or if women attempt to enter this temple?
No, women have already entered the temple. Every year women enter.
No. You keep saying that, but we're having this conversation for a reason. Let's assume a woman of the age of 25 is entering the temple on the 17th. What will happen?
Please, you need to give me time. No, you need to give me time on this, Faye. You will need to give me time. I was quiet all along. You'll need to give me time. I'll come to your question, but before that, there are a few points that a lot of our other guests asked, and they need clarification on it. First of all, let me say, this is not about menstruation. This is not about menstruation. This is not about considering women to be impure. Please, these are misleading statements.
What is it about?
This is not about menstruation. This is only about the nature. I'll tell you. It's about the nature of the deity there, Naishtiga Brahmachari. It's about the penance that men follow to reach there, which is also Naishtiga Brahmachari. And being a Naishtiga Brahmachari means they have to be away from worldly pleasures and must not be in an environment where young women are present. It could be related to sexuality. It could be related to distractions to their brahmacharyam. You can put it any way you want, but it's got nothing to do with menstruation or considering women to be impure.
So 10-year-olds are worldly pleasures?
So let's not take that there at all.
So 10-year-olds and 12-year-olds are worldly pleasures who are distracting.
No. We need to keep an age limit there. You cannot keep saying that, okay, somebody looks like that, so let's not keep them there. So we need to keep some sort of age regulation, which is why we have 10 and 50. Earlier, it used to be 55, and then we brought it down to 50. So we are being all the more inclusive. Anyway, my second point there is,
when you say we, who's
somebody
we?
Was saying the Dalits were not allowed earlier.
Deepa, when you say we are being inclusive, who's we here?
There were not such traditions that...
Who's we? Who are you referring to as we?
As in the trustees, the Sabarimala temple as such, or whoever you're questioning right now has been very inclusive all the while. Because in spite of the devotee, the deity there being Naishtiga Brahmachari, in spite of the Ayyappas who travel all the way there being Naishtiga Brahmacharis, there are women entering the temple every year, lakhs of women. It's just an age regulation of 10 and 50 which is kept there, which cannot be questioned. Secondly, you've been telling about traditions like Dalits were not allowed earlier, etc., etc. Sabarimala has been one place or one temple where there has been no sort of discrimination on the basis of caste, religion, section, sect, etc. All this has been proven in 1991 by the High Court. So please do not compare the Dalit entering the temple or Sati being abolished and these kind of caste
okay, now let me rebut. And I'm only going to rebut Deepa Ishwar.
Another thing, just one
thing.
simple question. I'll conclude now with one simple question. Now tomorrow, if a man comes in and says that he needs to be part of the Nari Puja at the Chakloti temple. Nari Puja, as Nari states, is a woman puja, where a woman is considered to be the goddess and she is worshipped. So tomorrow if a man says that it is questioning my right to equality and I have to be worshipped there, will you also go to the court citing that man also has to be worshipped there? And if the Supreme Court takes Article 14 as the yardstick and grants equality to men there for Nari Puja, will we Hindus let go of that belief also? So this is not, you cannot always take a constitutional stand there. In spite of having immense respect for the Honorable Supreme Court, we should take a balanced stand, keeping in mind the belief of the masses and the right to equality and the right to faith as well.
Okay, all right.
Men are very
no, 1 second, Barkat Rehan, don't yell out of turn. 1 second. Take a deep breath. Barkat Rehan, take a deep breath. Okay, so this is where we are right now. I do want to point out before we move further, the views of the panelists are their own. This channel in no way questions the integrity, the intention or the judgment of the Supreme Court. We don't want to believe that the Supreme Court was not being balanced, and we do not support that view. Now, you said this is not about menstruation, this is about worldly pleasures and distractions. Women are worldly pleasures and distractions. Let me now only argue based on what the Supreme Court has said. This is not my opinion. The Supreme Court has said that do not place the burden of maintaining the Lord's celibacy on women. This was a Supreme Court observation. The nature of the deity argument has been heard, for example, and dismissed by the Supreme Court. Justice Chandrachud, in fact, observed in his judgment that you cannot expect or place that burden, by placing that burden of the celibacy of the people who visit the temple, you are actually pigeonholing and discriminating against women. Justice Yatindra Singh, here's the question. We also had Deepa Ishwar say not everything can be made can be decided based on the constitutionality of things. I disagree with her. I believe that every single thing should be decided based on the constitutionality of things, because it is not the religion but the constitution on which we run this country. We are a secular country that believes in the constitution. Justice Singh,
please come back to me once more time.
No.
I have a point there.
Justice Singh will respond. Justice Singh, go ahead, please.
Constitution is supreme. It's over and above all religion. It is to be respected and it is to be obeyed by everyone. Nonetheless, the Constitution itself gives certain rights to different religions. That's right. And there is some merit in the argument of the other side that Article 25B permits the state to open up temples. Even the last time when I was there in the panel, the decision ought to have been taken by the government rather than by the judiciary. The government, by not taking a decision for social reform, is actually harming itself. And it doesn't realize one day we would no longer be governed by the government of the people, but we would be governed by the judges, selected by judges. And this decision, it is better that government should have taken it. Like opening up, if you look into all the social reforms, sati, abolition of sati, widows remarriage, child abolition, take the marriage, Hindu code bill, opening of temples for Dalit, all this has been taken by the state. And Article 25B permits the state to do it. Not judiciary has taken a view, it is to be accepted. Maybe judiciary has taken a view which is slightly a forward-looking view, and which is since the government is not taking it, the judiciary has taken it in its own hand, and judicial activism it has done it. The conclusion is right, but end result is right. But perhaps if the government would have done it, it would have been much better.
All right, we have Swaminathan on the phone line from Hyderabad. Swaminathan, go ahead.
Hello.
Yes, go ahead, Swaminathan.
Yes, hello.
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead, Swaminathan.
Thank you for taking the call. Say, in fact, I was the first caller on your channel last week.
Yes.
When I said that the rest of South India should be given for a poll or a survey by you, and you will get the largest share of women saying that we will not go unless we are ready to go. Sort of I am proved right now. Now, Madam Sudha has said something which is prompting me to share with you all something which is out of the jurisdiction of Supreme Court or Constitution. So bear with me. I am not taking insult of the decision. After I share with you what I am to say, I have a question.
No, be very quick. Be very quick, Swaminathan. You are taking a very long time.
Yeah, I have to, because now Madam Sudha has said that God does not speak to anybody. I have been a witness to a miracle happening in the St. Francis of, in Virgin Mary's shrine at Sardana, from where the Virgin Mary statue was bleeding for about 8 days. And the samples of the blood was taken by the church, brought to Dehradun, where I used to go regularly. It was kept on a frame.
Okay.
And next to the blood was the report of the blood.
Okay.
And it was given to various labs along with human blood
How
samples.
is this relevant?
And everywhere. It is at Sardana. You can verify with the parish.
How is this relevant to the conversation we're having right now?
Conversation is, she is saying, Madam Sudha said, there is no way God is communicating.
Yes.
Number one. Number two,
the connection is completely irrelevant. Even that statue did not communicate. There were no words.
Bear with me.
Yes.
Bear with me.
Yes.
I am telling to her that God does communicate. Whether it is Hindu God or Christian God, that's a different one. Okay. Now, I have got the question for justice. Now, if the premise is that the rules and traditions cannot be followed, or that cannot become a deterring factor for women to enter, then is it right of me to expect, or does it not become incumbent on the Supreme Court to pass the next landmark judgment? Because what is applicable in Sabarimala, which cannot be followed as a rule or regulation or ritual, should be followed at the Lord of Seven Hills, that is Sri Balaji Shrine, where the gents are not allowed to smoke, they cannot drink, they cannot eat non-veg. That
Okay,
is even today
that's
followed.
an interesting question. That's an interesting question. I will take that forward. Justice Singh, is there a difference between allowing entry
Yes.
and smoking, drinking and eating meat? Justice Singh.
Allowing smoking, drinking is entirely different thing altogether. Allowing smoking, drinking, or in a temple is just not permissible, because it is not a good practice at all. I mean, hello.
Who decides whether it is good or
do
bad,
not interrupt.
sir?
Do not interrupt.
Who
One
decides
second.
whether it is good or
Rahul,
bad?
Deepa Ishwar, don't interrupt when the justice is speaking. I'll give you a chance to rebut after he's done, please. Justice Singh, go ahead.
Smoking, drinking, gambling inside a temple, if anybody insists on smoking, drinking, or gambling inside a temple, it is just not permissible. They are not the good practices. But not permitting a woman stands on a different footing altogether. These two things are entirely different. They can't be compared.
Well, first of all, if I may, Justice Singh, I take tremendous offence as a woman to being compared to alcohol, cigarettes and a piece of meat. Let's remember here the argument based on those arguing those arguing, against the entry of women was to suggest that women are equal to worldly pleasures who are temptations and distractions. I refuse to believe. I am not a worldly pleasure. I am a citizen of this country. Go ahead.
No, Faye, please.
Justice Singh, go ahead.
One of the panelists, the lady did say that they are the women are some kind of temptation. I mean, this was a very unfortunate statement coming from a woman. It's just not true at all. I mean, women are not to be treated a piece of a sexual attraction. I mean, if the moment you say that, you are insulting women. That's the way I feel. The moment you say that, the argument of going to temple, women going to a temple is same as smoking or drinking. It's absurd, obnoxious. I mean, somebody who compares these two things together, I don't want to comment upon. I mean,
right.
I will come out
promised
very
Deepa Ishwar, I would give her a chance to rebut. Deepa Ishwar, go ahead, please.
Sir, just one question. So if that doesn't exist at all, then why do we need different hostels for men and women in colleges? Why do you need different ladies' hostels? Now you're going to tell me, oh, come on, that's completely not relevant to the topic. But it is relevant, ma'am. It is not. Why do you not permit men and women to live together when they're studying in colleges? Why are you allowing them to live separately? So that exists. And a second point, you said that the Supreme Court is supreme. Yes, it is supreme. But finally, it's not that we cannot challenge it. What happened in Jallikattu? Yes, the Supreme Court did hear out all the sides even for Jallikattu. But finally, what happened there? I don't need to tell you what happened there. Because of the lack of time, I'll put it very quickly. The next thing, you were talking about we being a religious denomination. Yes, I accept that we are probably not a religious denomination, and probably we failed to convince the apex court that, we probably took the line of a religious denomination line too quickly. But then, apart from that, we should have probably concentrated more on the fact that our deity has certain rights. Every Hindu deity is a legal person, and the rights of the deity needs to be protected. How far has the Supreme Court looked into the rights of the deity? I want one of the panelists of Faye, yourself, to let me know how much has the apex court probed into that particular angle of being the rights of the deity. The deity is a Naishtika Brahmachari. So how much of a choice does a deity have? No. Of course, yes, we will. Then what is this debate all about? It's about the verdict.
Yes,
exactly. Another thing. Secondly, there is a there is a question that was raised earlier that this is a re-entry of women. This is not a re-entry of women. This is only the entry of young women, because women have never entered the Sabarimala temple. Young women have never entered the Sabarimala temple. There have been aberrations in the past. I repeat, aberrations. I am saying that there would have been cases where there was
Deepa Ishwar, what will happen if a 25-year-old or a 30-year-old woman attempts to enter the temple?
Which is why, one second, Faye, this is my last sentence. This is my last sentence.
These are the regulations. Why do we need to break the regulations?
This is my last sentence. See. Yes, we need? Why are we having all the other regulations around us? And let's take away all these regulations. Let's not have men and women separate hostels. Let's not have separate toilets for men and women. Why are we having such regulations? So when it comes to Sabarimala, you're not able to tolerate the small age regulation. And the Honorable Justice there was telling me that, you know, oh, drinking, smoking, etc. bad. Let me with all respect ask you, sir, I agree with you, it is bad. But then if you're going to put forward this argument to me, let me put the same argument to you. Who decides that singing, smoking and drinking is bad inside a temple? It's my freedom. It's my right. There might be articles in the constitution that justify me drinking and smoking inside the temple. So please do not put that argument towards me. Secondly,
so now, one second. I'm really running out of time, and you promised me that was your last sentence. You promised that was your last sentence. Now let me rebut for you. Hostels for men and women. Hostels for men and women. Colleges like JNU, for example, do have hostels where men and women can choose to share the hostel. It's about choice. If there is a man or a woman who wants to live in the same hostel together, there is a choice for them to do. No, do not interrupt me. There is a choice for them to do so. This country recognizes live-in relationships. This country recognizes a choice of a man or a woman to live separately in separate hostels. This is about having the choice. This is about giving someone the choice. Secondly, your next argument, and I agree with you, maybe it was failed arguments put forth by your lawyers who took the wrong legal route and strategy to argue whether or not this is a separate religious denomination. Maybe they got that wrong, and maybe it's time to review and perhaps use a different strategy. That is, you're completely right there. Maybe there's time to relook at it. But the argument of whether or not smoking or drinking is bad and can it be compared here, my rebuttal to that is this. Smoking and drinking has been proven to be bad, first of all, and cannot be compared to the presence of women. Secondly, the argument of Hindu temples being protected in their own traditions across all Hindu temples can put in a regulation saying you cannot smoke in a temple because it's disrespectful to the god and it's disrespectful to those who are praying. Thirdly, you cannot smoke in a public place because it's not allowed in our country, not even in a restaurant. It's not allowed in offices, it's not allowed in temples. So that argument doesn't hold at all. I'm sorry, but that's a very weak argument, but I must give an option.
Let's lift that ban.
No. What are you talking about? You're making completely unreasonable arguments
at this point. Let's just not have all this ban, no?
Let's not say that keeping the presence of women does not give people lung cancer.
All of our beliefs.
This is not, I'm sorry, Deepa, Ishwar, you have gone completely off track. Last word to Sudha Ramalingam. Sudha Ramalingam, I'm taking offense one more time as being called a worldly pleasure and a distraction and being compared to tobacco and alcohol. But I just want to say one more time, Deepa Ishwar, when someone smokes, people standing around that person get lung cancer. That is not the same thing that happens with the presence of women. Sudha Ramalingam, last word. Go ahead.
Faye. I completely agree.
Sudha Ramalingam, go ahead.
Smoking and drinking are injurious to health. We have labels stuck in on the cigarette packets as well as on liquor bottles. One. Secondly, as you rightly said, comparing this with women is something atrocious. We kindly make only reasonable, logical arguments.
So who's comparing it?
And
why are you comparing it?
Talking about hostels.
Why are you
No, go ahead,
need co-education in all schools and colleges. We need intermingling of sex. We need co-education in all schools and colleges. We need intermingling of sexes. There could be hostels which are common to both men and women, and there are such hostels all over the world. Slowly, I think that has come to also JNU and other places. I'm definite it will permeate everywhere. Equality of sexes is something which is given as a fundamental right in your constitution. Kindly go back to your constitution. Ensure that we are a democratic country, we are a secular country, a country where our constitution allows us to interfere.
Yes, Sudha Ramalingam, unfortunately, I have to cut this short because we're running out of time, but I'm very quickly going to wrap this up. On the 17th of October, a week from now, the temple will reopen for the season. It is possible, given the Supreme Court's judgment, that young women between the ages of 10 to 50 who were up until now prohibited from entering the temple will want the right to do so. It's likely, or what we've been told, that there will be protesters who will block the roads in front of these women and not allow them to enter, fundamentally denying them their right to pray. If we want to argue that the court should not interfere in matters of faith, and traditions, that argument then does not hold. Because what about triple talaq, which we agreed was bad for women, was anti-women and should have been removed? Wasn't that a matter of faith and tradition, but it was not good for society? It is the same thing. I want to reiterate that on this channel, we stand with the equal rights of women, and more importantly, we stand with the judgment of the Supreme Court. On the 17th, we'll bring you live updates of what goes on in Sabarimala. Thanks for watching.